So North Korea now threatening retaliation against the United States for these new sanctions. China signed on to them over the weekend at the United Nations after word President Trump is actually planning a crackdown on Chinese trade. So did that help in terms of getting China on board? Swiss America's chairman Craig Smith is with us. Smart Trade co-founder D.R. Barton is also with us. What do you think, Craig? We talked about that a lot last week, that all of a sudden we're going to see a new President Trump who's kind of back to the future, back to the campaign talk. I'm going to get tough on you, China, when it comes to trade. Do you think it helped with this in North Korea?
Boy, you know, I'm not sure, Connell, but I got to tell you, it's interesting how he called for this investigation and then postponed that meeting on Friday, and next thing you know, the Chinese and the Russians are both at the table signing these agreements for the sanctions. I think China in the past has given overtures that they were going to crack down, but, you know, they've allowed really North Korea to do whatever they want. And I think the big issue here is we got to keep in mind that this Kim Jong-un and his father are willing to allow millions of people to starve in North Korea if that's what they have to do to get to their end goal. Right. And the 800-mile border with China could present a real problem because that part of China is not a rich part of China. It's a very poor part. So there are a lot of moving pieces here. I suspect he's going to get China to cooperate with him. It's just a question of if they will really knuckle down this time.
So what does it mean then, D.R., to think if, you know, to Craig's point, you do have a leader in North Korea who doesn't operate at the same level that all of us do and is willing to just let his people suffer, and yeah, you say you're doing all this damage to his economy, and the guy doesn't care, and in fact maybe even more provoked by that. Maybe are we even close to a point where we're having a serious talk about the real threat, not the rhetoric, the real threat of nuclear weapons being used?
Well, economic sanctions historically take some time, right, and sometimes lots of time to work through the system. So if we're trying to stop the immediate threat of their missile development program, that just won't work in and of itself. What the hope is, and the Secretary of State just said that we hope this will bring them to the table in a matter of months before things really start to work through the North Korean economy. They want to see fewer or no more tests, the reduction in development. They want to see some of these things, and they're trying to force that hand before the people of North Korea really do get hurt by this.
Right. So if they are in a position, Craig, where they kind of look at this and they know that kind of backed into a corner, Kim Jong-un, they being North Korea, and now they're more capable than they ever have been before. At least that's what we've been led to believe, that somehow a missile can get, maybe with a nuclear warhead attached to it, either now or in the very near future, to the American mainland. If they're in that position, do you think, no matter what China says, that's a risk this guy actually acts upon at this time if he's capable?
You know, it's so hard to predict the actions of a madman.
I know.
You know, DR is right. You know, these sanctions are going to take some time to work, and I'm not sure that we have time. That's why I like the talk out of Rex Tillerson. He's saying, hey, we're not talking about you coming to the table 30 days from now after. He's saying, no, we want you to stop now, and then we'll start talking.
And what if they don't?
And well, quite frankly, nobody's going to like to hear this, but and look, I don't want to go to war any more than anybody else does, but I think the only thing that's really going to stop North Korea is, quite frankly, an attack on their facilities to disable them, or maybe we can come up with a Stuxnet virus like happened in Iran, where we can slow the whole process down.
Something. Well, think about that for a second, though. The attack on you say attack on their facilities to disable them. I mean, I don't know, not that it's an authority on all these types of things, but The Economist magazine, DR, last week went through that as kind of a hypothetical, and I think that's how it started. With we get to the point where we don't know what else to do, and we do initiate an attack on their facilities. One thing leads to another. Next thing you know, the guy does actually fire off these missiles that he has hidden in some mountain somewhere, slips through the cracks, and it either hits an American base somewhere or hits one of our allies somewhere, and then, you know, you can't even talk about how damaging that would be. We don't even want to talk about how crazy that would be. It would be nuclear war.
No, and that's the real problem. Craig's right. When you're dealing with someone that just has clearly shown over and over again that they don't use normal logic. We can call him a madman, and what it really means is he doesn't make decisions like the rest of us. So even if it was a multilateral strike with lots of support from the international community, they in Korea, and the top dog in particular is still going to blame the U.S. So this is a really tight situation. We hope that China can exert some of that economic and their political influence in this process. That's the best solution, really.
Then he listens, that he doesn't feel cornered, where he feels like, you know what, forget it, I'm dead anyway. There's nothing I can do about this, and I may as well fire off whatever I have left, which is the scariest of all scenarios.
Keep in mind.
Yep, go ahead, Craig.
And let's keep in mind, Connell, we do have the THAAD system that's working rather well. We do have defenses in that part of the region. So just to think that he can launch a nuclear strike on us, there's no indication that he can put a nuclear-tipped warhead past the South China Sea.
He couldn't get it through. That's obviously the hope. It's a fair and a good point. Thank you for making that, and we'll wrap it up on that note, Craig and DR. Well, scary times. Now, the State Department